How do you prevent yourself from going completely off the deep end?
Very good question, because there's a lot of people who have gone off the deep
There
end.
are. And I say this because, as well, in my own personal experience, I've seen a lot of it, particularly in the past 2 years, right? I see conspiracy theories. There's people who call me a conspiracy theorist. I'm sure there's plenty of people who call you a conspiracy theorist. But if you deal with and you encounter like people who are deep down the conspiracy theorist rabbit hole,
Everything's a conspiracy.
That's how I know I'm not a conspiracy theorist, right? Because they're the ones who think, I'm sure, they'll call you controlled opposition. They'll call me controlled opposition. I've seen rumors circulating on the internet that I don't exist and that I'm an advanced artificial intelligence and that I'm not real. I've seen rumors that I'm funded by all sorts of groups, or I'm part of the Illuminati, or I'm a Satanist, or I'm secretly a Freemason. I've seen that I'm in the CIA. I'm part of the FBI. Like, I'm not even American. And I see some of these things floating out about me, let alone other people. And when I see those conversations happening, the people who believe these things, they wholeheartedly, these are people who call themselves truthers. And I'm like, well, I am me. And I am 100% certain that none of these accusations you're making about me are correct. And then they're pointing at all these other people saying, this person is this, and this person is this, and this. And I'm just like, okay, y'all have gone completely off the deep end.
And no matter what happens, no matter what victory, it's never good enough. It's always a conspiracy within a conspiracy.
Exactly.
And
these are the people who think Alex Jones is controlled up. They think, right, like anyone who has, I don't know, 100,000 or more followers to them is not some type of controlled opposition who's funded by some shadowy cabal somewhere. And how do you, being involved so heavily in the social and cultural and political debates and so on, I'm curious as to how certain people just maintain that level of sanity and truth seeking, but without going so far that you reach the level of paranoia where it's just like, oh, every single thing is, I cannot trust anything I see or hear or anybody I speak to.
So I'm not speaking to a hologram right now? I'm just joking.
I am real. I mean, I've existed for quite a while. I mean, unless we're all just in this giant simulation, which I guess is also possible, in which case none of us are real.
Exactly. That's another possibility here. I think having an open mind is key. Having humor is key. Not taking yourself too seriously is key. And I kind of pride myself on trying to integrate all of that into what I do. I think one of the things that to me has given me a kind of a reverence, an ability to do this for so long, is being able to meditate and to take time and to do mindful exercises and be able to ground myself in this kind of larger pursuit of trying to be the best version of myself. And as long as I strive for that, I'm good. But there's a lot of people who have lost their minds, that have gone off the deep end, that no matter what you say, no matter what you do, you're controlled opposition.
Exactly.
You win, you have a major victory. No, it's not good enough. It's a part of a larger program that's meant to hurt you and make you do that. I think somebody.
Sorry, I don't even want to cut you off there, but do you know what I've realized? I think just in the past couple months is that there are certain worldviews which have no room for heroes.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think someone can become so skeptical and so cynical and so embittered and disempowered with all of these things, and they reach a point where they're just so skeptical that heroes are not allowed in the narrative. There cannot be someone who is on their side. Anyone who seems to be on their side, that's got to be a controlled op. Anything that seems like, actually, maybe we're having a little victory here. Nope, that's just part of the grander scheme to entrap humanity and enforce the tyranny or whatever narrative they believe. It's a little bit like, people who are super doomsday cultish about, like the Branch Covidians were, right? You try to explain to them that, maybe this illness is not quite as bad as what they initially believed, and they get angry about it. Or when you have the people who think, climate change is going to destroy the world within the next, 10 years or so, and you try to prevent information or arguments which say, okay, maybe it's not quite as catastrophic as you think, and they don't want to hear it. They want everything to be
a conspiracy.
Bad. Yes, they want it to be bad. They want the doom. They want the gloom. They don't want anyone out there who's like, hey, actually, this is good or this is a victory.
Yeah, I think some of those people are government sock puppet accounts, and I think some of those people are like.
So they're the controlled op?
It's a controlled op within a controlled op.
Oh wow!
It's multi-layered here, but I also do believe there is a faction of actual authentic individuals who have lost their minds, who aren't sane, who aren't rational, and they're so conceived that the world is so horrible that they will find any reason to see it as horrible. And that's why your reticular activation system is so important in your life. This is why your thought process is so important in your life. Tony Robbins always talks about the kind of mental science behind celebrating your victories. You have to celebrate your victories. You have to set goals for yourself. You have to try to achieve something. You have to try to do something bigger than just yourself for your own selfish needs. When Elon Musk bought Twitter, everyone's like, it's all part of the science. And I'm like,
that's actually a great example.
And I'm like, Tim, you see that cognac you got there for $15,000? We're going to crack that open right now. Open it. And he's like, okay, yeah. And then I don't even drink. I don't drink. I had a little drink because I wanted to celebrate this moment. And it's important for you to celebrate, and it's important for you to be happy, because if you're happy, that to me is now a modern day act of resistance. I think the system is so sophisticated in a way that it has this larger kind of dehumanist, demoralizing agenda that is meant to be there, that has been planting information that sets people on such a trajectory that they can't even successfully resist the kind of slave mind that is being instituted against them in not just the actual conspiracies, but the conspiracy within the conspiracy. And this is why I said there might be even sock puppet accounts that do this in order to convince other people that it's okay to think like this. So I do believe we are being shaped, we are being manipulated through our kind of algorithms that we see every single day. And I think there is a concerted effort to try to bring people to this kind of stage, because they become absolutely ineffective at doing anything good for themselves or good for the world. And the government wants you in a position, the government or the elites or the Illuminati, whatever you might think, they want you in a position where you're absolutely helpless. Those people are just as helpless as the sheeple. Those people are just as helpless as the NPCs. Those people are just 100%. As helpless as everyone else who has their head in the sand, because you have your head down in the sand, down in the rabbit hole, too much. like you're just as exposed as all those ostriches with their buttocks up in the air by believing all the conspiracies. And this is why it's important to have discernment. This is why it's important to have critical thinking. And this is why I think your question was so important, because I literally went on this pathway of everything that's a conspiracy, I know the truth, to I don't know nothing. All I know is that we got to question everything in this life, and even ourselves, even where we're going, because there's such a level of kind of sophistication between what's happening through this kind of larger hive mind that I think we still don't understand it. But as long as we focus on becoming the best version of ourselves, becoming stronger, having great families, having great relationships, having great success with business, and celebrating every victory we have, I think if we align our goals around that, I think we're going to be good. And this is why I keep saying, don't believe me, do your own homework. And another thing that I always keep saying that my YouTube audience is probably sick of is being happy, being healthy, being strong is a modern day act of resilience. Act on it, play on it, enjoy life. Life is short. It could be taken away at any moment, at any time. And when it can, don't have any regrets. Why would you want to have any kind of regret? Learning how short life is, growing up in my early years, I had a really good friend of mine that passed away when I was like 21. Showed me life is short, and that's what kind of motivated me to do what I do, to take the risks that I did, to have the experiences that I did, to share them, and to try to motivate other people to get out of this kind of slave mind and get into a life that is worth living, that is fun, that is amazing, that you actually leave better when you leave this world.
Yes.
So that's my end goal. That's what I want to do. That's what I want to focus on.
Man, that's powerful, Luke. Man, you touched on so many points that I think are so interesting there. And I agree with you. I think that the demoralization agenda is something that people massively underestimate. And as a result, they themselves fall into. It's almost like I don't know what term people want to use. You can call it, people say you can call it the matrix, you can call it the deep state or whatever. But there are two positions of essential helplessness. Right? There's just being so naive and ignorant and gullible that you don't question anything, right? You fall for the psyop because you 100% trust the government and you totally trust like everything they're saying is above board. Anyone who is a dissenter is a conspiracy theorist and they're just crazy and, you know, whatever phobias and isms they probably also happen to have as well. So you have the where someone's just like a puppet, right? They're just anything you tell them, you just say it came from an expert, say it came from the government, whatever. They believe it wholesale, very easy to psyop. But then on the flip side, you've got people who have gone completely to the opposite end of the spectrum and they're completely blackpilled. They're fully demoralized. They think that there is no way to win. There is no room for heroes in their worldview. No victory can be celebrated because any victory is just another step on the globalist elite's plan to destroy humanity or whatever it is. And as you said, they are now completely ineffective as well. They're equally ineffective because it's like, well, if you don't even believe that you can win, if you think no matter what you do, no matter what we do, what's the...
Not just ineffective, right? Detrimental.
Detrimental.
They hurt the morale. They hurt the any kind of possibility of resisting this or fighting this since they know that there's no way of winning.
Yes.
And if you keep spreading that kind of mentality, it's a cancer. It's something that grows within you and spurs on this kind of defeatist, pessimistic, soy boy, beta I want to say another word here. I can't. We're on YouTube. Energy that's kind of like... It's tiresome. And you know there's going to be a bunch of people who are going to be watching this video and be like, they're just CIA shills trying to make me not this is the part of the program and they're to control that. And I'm like, dude, just try to enjoy your life. Yeah. All right, touch some grass, have some fun.
Do you know what it is as well? Is I think that skepticism is like the first skepticism and or cynicism is like the first step towards waking up. Right? It's the first step towards knowledge, essentially, or wisdom. But it's not the last step. It's not just like, oh, okay, the first step is questioning things. So now my modus operandi is that every single thing, every single person, I can see it with my own eye. No matter what, I will not believe anything. I am now skeptical and cynical of everything and everyone. And I think that when people get like that, they sort of reinforce each other because they think that that is almost like the supreme wisdom, right? I think the person who thinks that everything and everyone is a psyop or is controlled op or whatever term they want to use, they feel kind of superior in a way. It's like, look, I'm the one who's enlightened, right? They're looking at you and me and they're like, oh, you know, you're part way there, but like I'm fully down the rabbit hole, right? Like once you know that, and you can't disprove them as well. It's almost like it can be a sort of paranoid right-wing version of wokeism, right? Where you have these people who are on the extreme left and they bought fully into all the critical theories and all of that, and you can't really get them out of the position. You have these people, let's say, for example, they'll hold the belief that all white people are racist and oppressors and all black people are oppressed and are victims of some type of systemic, institutional, structural racism or whatever. Anything you say to them or anything anyone says, they will just twist it to reinforce their narrative, right? If a white person is like, hey, I'm not racist, they're like, well, that's your white fragility that you're not owning up to your racism, therefore you are racist, right? Because you haven't adopted my worldview. If I, as a black person, say, they'll be like, well, you know, that's your own internalized racism and, you know, you're upholding the system of white supremacy. And so, you know, they might even say that, well, you're not even black because like you don't, well, no matter what, it's this sort of like intellectual judo where no matter what the narrative and no matter what someone's quote unquote lived experiences or whatever, they will use it as an example to reaffirm their own narrative. Like so it gets very frustrating where you're just like, I don't know, I can't really have a conversation with this person because they're just so dug into the narrative that even if I provide very clear counter examples and reasons why this super dogmatic worldview is not correct, they don't buy it. And then they kind of reinforce one another because, again, they have that idea like we are the enlightened ones.
Yeah. Well, they become very radicalized. And for a lot of these people, it's a cult. It's a religion.
Yes.
It's something that their entire identity is backed on. And if you're one of these people, go outside, touch grass, live life. And then you'll start to understand. And this is, I think, the problem with social media engineering. This is the problem with echo chambers. This is the problem with people just kind of hearing their own voices regurgitated back to them and not getting a different spectrum of information that, of course, could question their perceived norms. I think you need to question yourself in a healthy way. There's different radicalization pathways for a lot of different individuals, but for me, if I would be talking to one of these radicalized individuals, I would just say, hey, if you think you could do a better job than we're doing, do it. We need more people to help us. We need more people to get active. We need more people to get engaged. Maybe it would be beneficial for you as an individual, instead of being a negative Nancy, you be proactive. You do something outside of your norms, outside of just criticizing and poo-pooing everything and being a Debbie Downer. How about you get active and get engaged? Let's see what impact you can make on this world. And when you start focusing on the positive and when you start focusing on action, your whole kind of mindset changes. But these people are so spun up by these kind of echo chambers that for some it feels hopeless. It's not. I think we still have to try to reach out to those people. I think those people mean good.
Yes.
And when you mean good, let's do good. Let's just, you're coming from the right place here of having critical, skepticism. But now let's add in the critical thinking here. Now let's, instead of just judging people, instead of just casting stones, let's see what you got. Let's see what you could build. Let's do this. And then you'll learn that it's a lot harder than it actually looks like. Yeah. There's a lot of different spiritual battles. There's a lot of larger kind of ethical questions that you're faced. There's a lot of different challenges that you never thought. But challenges is what makes you have an awesome and incredible life. If you don't challenge yourself, if you're just living a life of comfort, if you're just living a life of being an armchair quarterback, you're not really living a life. You're kind of just spectating everything. Get in the fight. We're not doing well off as kind of a Western civilization. As far as everything that's happening with our health, our mental well-being, our physical shapes as well, we're not doing too good. We need all the help we could get. Get active, get engaged, do some good things, change your reticular activation system, and start to actually move forward in a proactive way where people could judge you by the fruits of your labor and not just by some snotty person making some kind of comments online. I don't let those people bother me. Yeah. People always say they have all these theories about me just like they did about you. Cool. That's fine. You can have all the theories you want. But what do you got to show for yourself? What are you going to do in this life? And I'm not going to judge you either way, but you have a life to live.